This is Damian Jennette with a SWAPA NC and a Houston-based captain going to talk about the new disability subsection in the benefits section of the Tentative Agreement. 4 areas of focus that we looked at in the disability was income replacement, retirement replacement, medical replacement, and then all those other benefits that are associated when you go on a medical leave while disabled. First, we're going to cover all of the changes to the income replacement in the disability. We did retain the loss of license program that we currently have today under current book, but with major modifications to it. The first big change is the elimination period, or the waiting period, is a fixed 60-day waiting period. Under current book, it is your artificial last day paid, or 180 days, whichever occurs last. That artificial last day paid is a kind of a complicated math of doing your sick bank divided by 95 to develop that artificial last day paid. Now it's a fixed, flat 60-day waiting period. The next change was a 50% uncapped benefit, and that's on your 12 months of earnings. We also call that the MBE. The monthly base earnings is the average of the last 12 months. The max duration, under current book, it was half your longevity with a minimum of 5 years. Now it goes to the FAA mandatory retirement age. Another enhancement is the top-up benefit. The pilot gets the choice to use their sick bank now, but it can only go up to 100% of their MBE, or monthly base earnings. And we'll go over in a couple of minutes how that works in the new system. Additional changes. After 5 years on claim, the benefit will now increase 5% every 5 years. There is no longer a Social Security offset, no more maximum mental health clause, and there's now a 24-month alcohol or substance abuse benefit unless you are in the HIMSS program. If you're in the HIMSS program, there is no maximum timeline. Next, we're going to talk about the income replacement benefit top-up. This brings you up to your 100% of your monthly base earnings. Once again, that's the average of your last 12 months. Under the new construct, the loss of license benefit has a 2-month elimination period, or 60 days. After that 60 days, then the loss of license benefit kicks in, and it's, like we said, the benefit is 50% of your monthly base earnings. On the assumption if you had a averaged 100 TFP, and just for an example, then you would have 50 TFP equivalency value of loss of license benefit, and then you could use the additional 50 TFP in sick to bring you up to 100. The top-up benefit can also be changed by the pilot 2 times a year. So if you do not want to use 100% of your sick bank, you can bring that value down all the way to 0. As we said, just another example, you have 2 months of elimination period, your benefit starts, you start using sick bank, then maybe you want to reduce that sick bank. An additional change to the income replacement while on disability is vacation accrual. In the TA 2020, under 14B6A, you will see where it talks about a pilot is on a leave of absence will accrue vacation for the month if the pilot receives 1 TFP or more of credited service in a calendar month. The big part to note about that is a pilot that is receiving loss of license benefits just has to burn 1 sick TFP for that month in order to qualify for accredited service for that month. So that means that they would continue to accrue vacation while on disability. For new hires, we created a new hire disability bridge benefit. This is so that in the first 20 months of your employment with the airline, you will have a recognized amount of up to 200 TFP of sick, and it will be prorated over that 20-month period. Could apply to you if you go out on disability. This effectively is your STD program to bridge you onto the loss of license program. This is for those new hires. Remember, current book, the loss of license program is not available to our new hires. Under the new system, they will be eligible for the loss of license program after 30 days of gaining their seniority number. Just to compare how we ended up in the disability program versus the other big three, like we said, the waiting period is now a fixed 60-day period. Current book is your sick bank divided by 95 or 180 days. Delta does have a STD program that bridges to an LTD program. You do have to exhaust your sick prior to starting STD. American is 60 days or exhaust sick, whichever occurs last. And United is 60 days, exhaust sick to 120 hours. They do have a pilot option to exhaust any additional sick. The benefits under the TA 2020, it's 50%, as we said, uncapped. Delta is also 50% uncapped. American the same. United is 50%, but they're limited in 2024 to $14,339 a month. That does increase about 4% each year during the duration of their contract. With this change also, there's none of the big four will have a Social Security offset. We have no limit on mental, where there are some limits at other airlines. And the alcohol and dependency, we have no limit if you're in the HIMSS program, while most other airlines still have some form of limitation. The next focus area is retirement replacement while on disability. Remember, under current book, you get nothing unless you are burning sick or vacation. You'll have NEC, 401k NEC applied to that because it's considered a wage, but your loss of license under current book receives nothing. The big change is the 401k NEC will now be applied to your MBE. So remember, that's the average of your last 12 months. That's what it's being applied on. So from date of ratification through the end of 2025, you'll have 17% applied to that 12-month average lookback. After January 2026, you'll have 18% applied to that average 12-month lookback. Additionally, after the startup of the market-based cash balance plan, you'll also have your full MBE applied to that as well. After date of ratification through the end of 2025, it will be 1% of your MBE will be applied, and then after January 2026, it will be 2%. An additional feature is now your profit sharing will also be applied to your full 12-month average lookback. The caveat, though, is you have to have your hours of service met in order to qualify for the profit sharing. You have to have 1,000 hours a year. How does the retirement replacement compare with the other big three? So once again, our 401k NEC is being applied to our full MBE. The market-based cash balance plan is being applied to the full MBE, and also profit sharing to the MBE. In 2024, we'll have 17% NEC. Delta is also 17% on their full MBE. They call it a PDE, or pre-disability earnings, but they get 17%. Basically, the math on that is their benefit times 2 times 17% is where that's applied. American, they get 17% of their NEC on the LTD benefit only. So at 50%, because they're also 50% of their LTD program, they're getting basically half of what we are on our retirement replacement on the 401k NEC specifically. United took a different approach. They have the LTD benefit up to the maximum, because once again, they have a maximum cap. Everybody else is uncapped. They take that value times 2 times the NEC. Their NEC, of course, for 2024 will be 17%, but then they take those funds and put it into their market-based cash balance plan. The next focus area was medical replacement while on disability. This was a big undertaking under Contract 2020 rewrite. Under today's book, it's a very hard process for those that have been on disability or are aware of the issues. Under today's construct, you stay on active rates for about 120 days, depends on when you run out of sick. Then you then you have to pay COBRA rates. SWAPA reimburses those COBRA rates. You then go to the submed plan. After about 2.5 years, you then transition to the SWAPA VIBA. It's very painstaking. It has a lot of confusion, especially when you're in a a time period that you're trying to get your life in order because of all these switching gears, probably trying to recover from some kind of operation to get back to flying status. A lot of things are occurring, and trying to keep pace of that is hard to do. We have changed the entire system to make it a seamless transfer. So under the new plan, you will pay your active rates, your active premiums. So if you're in the regular plan, of course, you pay no premiums. You'll pay those premiums, though, on the Benefits Plus plan like you do today for the first 90 days. So you become disabled. The first 90 days, it's just status quo. On the 91st day, you will flip onto the supplemental plan. There is nothing for you to have to do. It will be a seamless transfer to that plan. You will no longer get the end of coverage letters that people used to get because they were going to lose benefits and they were going to have to transfer to a different plan and all those other things. So this is the big change to that. That's the first big change. The second big change is if you go out on disability and you're on the regular plan and you switch to the submed plan, the seamless transfer that we talked about, you will maintain the regular plan to age 65 now. That is a very big, huge win, we believe, for SWAPA and its members. The Benefits Plus plans, like we said, you'll continue to pay those active rates, but now you have no more COBRA, you have no more reimbursements, and you do not have to worry about going to the VEBA or any of those things anymore. As a side note, all those pilots currently on the VEBA will transfer to the new submed plan within 6 months of data ratification. Some other aspects that were added to the medical and other areas while on disability. Vision is now available for disabled pilots. The CBA specifically points out that all pilots are afforded vision plans, but we specifically laid out and said that if you're a disabled pilot, you also had the availability for vision to participate in vision, which you do not have today. The next change, and we'll go in a little bit more detail, is life insurance. Every pilot will be afforded $800,000 in life insurance, and it does not matter what medical plan you're on. So if you're on the regular plan and you have $800,000 of life insurance, you become disabled, that $800,000 will actually travel with you while on disability. And you will no longer have to make the decision to port the plan. For those that have been on disability, porting your life insurance is very expensive, especially for the low coverage amount. But now you have $800,000 that's guaranteed to you. If you do have supplemental plans, both the regular plan and the Benefits Plus plans have supplemental life insurance. If you choose to have those, they will follow with you as well. And the only difference is you have to just make sure that you pay those premiums for that supplemental, but it will travel with you. Something else that about the life insurance is for all pilots, there's no statement of health for that first $800,000 in life insurance. An additional benefit that we obtained was for travel. So you can non-rev both the pilot and the eligible travelers that are listed on the within the company site. They will be able to travel. There's no restrictions. You used to have a desk test, and it depended if you still had sick bank. All of those are out the window now. If you are on a medical leave, in other words, you're receiving loss of license disability insurance, then or disability payments, then you are fully eligible to travel and use all the travel privileges within Southwest Airlines. As we just said, a big change was the life insurance and accidental death and dismemberment insurance. Everyone will get this basic life and AD&D, the $800,000. You also have the opportunity to lower that each annual enrollment. So if you do not want the $800,000, you can go down to $500,000, $400,000, $300,000, $200,000, and $50,000. The lowest threshold is $50,000. That's where the company will give it to you for free, and there's no imputed income. Anything over $50,000, in this example, let's say $800,000, then the company has to assess imputed income. Just remember, imputed income is not the actual insurance that you're paying. It's just the IRS wants to make sure that you're being taxed properly on it. So the IRS has a table that they've laid out, and you can see on the screen it's age dependent. So if you're under the age of 25, and you can see each band, 25 to 29, goes all the way up to 60 to 64. In the middle column, it's talking about what the cost per $1,000 is. So essentially, what you're doing is you're taking $800,000, you subtract $50,000, because remember that's the base level that's tax-free, if you will. You find that difference, and then you apply that cost per $1,000 per month. In the table on the right-hand side, you can see what the imputed income will be for $800,000. So if you're between the ages of 60 and 64, it will be an extra $5,940 of imputed income. So remember, that's not what you're paying on it, but that's what's going to be applied to your W-2 at the end of the year. If you have a 25% tax bracket, that 25% would then be applied to that $5,940 to give you a rough estimate of what you would be paying for premiums if you were to buy this on the open market. We did have a small aircraft and military duty. They are now included in the life insurance, but they are excluded from the AD&D policy. A lot of people don't realize that when we say you have $800,000 of life insurance and AD&D, those are technically two different policies. So if you do have an accident while either in a small aircraft or military duty, then the company will only cover the $800,000 for life insurance. And once again, as we said, there's no statement of health required for the life and AD&D for up to $800,000. Lastly, how do we compare to the rest of the industry on life insurance? As we said, we have $800,000. You can elect for it to go lower. Under current book, there's nothing actually in current book that states how much insurance the company has to offer you. They do give everybody $50,000 per the policy, but nothing contractual. Delta is slightly over $1 million. They use a method of taking 2,500 times the highest 12-year captain rate, and they apply it for all the pilots. They do have the electability to have it go lower, and also a group variable universal life option as well. American is a flat $750,000 for all their pilots, and United does it slightly different. They say it's 2 times their salary, which they use 2,052 hours times the pay rate to come up with that salary threshold. So for next year, 2024, their 12-year 737-900 captain rate, a 12-year captain, in other words, or more, would be $740,000. Maybe you were a second-year FO on the 737-900 there. That would be much lower threshold there, where we're giving all of our pilots $800,000 under the current TA. That's the end of our summary for the disability changes to Contract 2020. Thank you for listening. For more information, just go to the swappa.org Contract 2020 TA resource page. And you can also email us at nc@swappa.org.